The tribute ship was 3 weeks late. In the great tax hall of the Galactic throne, a small bronze bell rang every time a tribute freighter docked at the collection port. The bell had not rung for Earth in 3 full cycles. The tax masters did not notice at first. Then they noticed. Then they pretended they had not noticed. Then, finally, one of them walked to the high tower and told the High Regent. High Regent Veles was a tall, thin man with silver eyes and very long fingers. He listened to the news without moving. He did not blink. He did not speak. He simply turned and looked out of the window at the floating gardens of the capital. After a long minute, he said only one word. "Again." The tax master nodded. "Third time," he said. Veles tapped his finger once on the stone rail. Once meant the council would meet. The tax master bowed and ran. Within the hour, the throne council sat in their tall black chairs around the great ring table. Warlord Ostran was there too, his armor still dusty from a border patrol. He laughed when he heard the reason for the meeting. "Humans," he said, "we are sitting here because of humans." Veles did not laugh. "They have stopped paying," he said. "Then we go and take it," Ostran said, "and we take a city too to remind them." The other council members nodded. They had ruled the stars for 900 years. They had broken 60 species. Humans were a Tier 4 world, the lowest class on the scale, a wet planet of soft creatures who had been paying metal and labor to the throne for 3 centuries. The idea that they would refuse was not anger. It was confusion, like a fish climbing out of a pond. In the corner of the council hall, an old human man sat very still. His name was Counselor Brayman. He had served as humanity's quiet voice on the throne for 40 long years. He had gray hair and tired eyes and a brown coat that did not fit the grand room. The other council members had stopped looking at him years ago. He was just there, like a chair, like a lamp. Veles spoke to him without turning. "Brayman, why have your people stopped?" Brayman stood up slowly. His knees clicked. "They have not stopped, High Regent," he said in a soft voice. "They have finished." Ostran frowned. "Finished what?" Brayman did not answer that. Instead, he looked around the great ring table at every face, one by one. He looked at them the way an old teacher looks at students who have not done the reading. "You were warned," Brayman said. "Every year, in our own way, for 300 years. You did not hear it because you were not listening." Then he picked up his brown coat and walked out of the chamber. No one stopped him. No one understood what he meant. Veles turned to Ostran. "Take 200 warships, go to Earth. Burn 1 coastal city, take 1,000 hostages. Bring back the missing tribute with interest." Ostran smiled and stood up. "It will be done before the next bell." He left in heavy strides. The council slowly broke apart. The matter was, in their minds, already finished. Humans were soft. Humans were slow. Humans could be fixed with 1 short visit from a warship fleet. The throne had done it 60 times before to 60 other worlds. But far, far away from the capital, in a cold and quiet pocket of space where no throne map had ever drawn a line, something opened its eyes. It was a ship, a very long, very dark ship. It had no flags, it had no bright lights. It did not look proud or grand. It looked like a knife laid flat in deep water. It had been sitting there silent for many years, waiting. Inside the ship, on a quiet bridge lit only by soft blue panels, a man stood with his hands behind his back. He was not tall. He was not loud. He had short brown hair and calm eyes. His name was Captain Aaron Hale. A young officer at the side panel turned to him. "Sir, signal from Earth Command." Hale walked over without hurry. He read the message. It was very short, only 5 words. "They have sent the fleet." Hale read it again. Then he folded the small screen down and stood quiet for a moment. He did not look angry. He did not look afraid. He looked the way a doctor looks at a wound he has been waiting to clean for a very long time. "Lieutenant Rhea," he said. A woman at the tactical station looked up. She was sharp-faced and dry-eyed. "Sir." "Wake the ship quietly." Yes, sir. The ship did not roar. It did not light up. It simply slowly came alive. Soft hums filled the halls. Crew members moved to their stations without shouting. There were no battle drums, no flag salutes, only careful, trained hands. Hale looked at the dark window. Stars and more stars, and beyond them, a galaxy that had spent 300 years not knowing. 3 centuries, he said softly, almost to himself. 3 centuries of smiling and bowing and paying. 3 centuries of being called Tier 4. Rhea looked at him. Sorry. Hale did not turn from the window. Then it is time they saw us. The ship moved. It did not jump through normal space. It did not use the lanes that the throne had mapped and watched for 900 years. It folded itself into something else, something the galaxy had never seen, and was gone. And the bell in the tax hall far away did not ring. It would never ring for Earth again. Earth was wrong. That was the first thing the lead pilot of the Draven fleet noticed when his ship came out of jump space above the blue planet. Not destroyed, not on fire, not defended, just wrong. The cities on the night side had no lights. The day side had no smoke from factories. The seas had no ships. The skies had no planes. 200 Draven warships had arrived expecting screams and prayers. Instead, they got silence. Warlord Ostran stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Mountain. He stared at the screens. He pulled his helmet off and held it in one hand. Where are they? He said. A young scanner officer answered carefully. Sir, no biosigns above the planet's surface. The orbital platforms are dark. The defense satellites are still in orbit but turned off. The factories on the ground are turned off. The cities are intact. They are simply empty. Ostran's second in command, an old soldier named Drev, stepped close to him. This is wrong, Warlord, Drev said in a low voice. Even cattle worlds put up a fight. A pet world like Earth should be sending fishing boats to beg us for mercy. There should be radio calls. There should be panic. There is nothing. Maybe they hid in caves, Ostran said. 3 billion people do not hide in caves, sir, Drev said. Not in a day. Ostran waved his hand. Then we will draw them out, pick a coastal city, the biggest one, burn it. Drev hesitated. Sir, the punitive code says we must first send a warning broadcast and wait 1 cycle for surrender. Send the warning, then fire in 10 minutes, Ostran said. The warning went out. It was loud and proud and full of old throne language. It demanded the tribute, the planetary council, and 1,000 hostages. No one answered. 10 minutes passed. The big guns of the Iron Mountain glowed red. They fired down at a great coastal city full of glass towers. The shots fell. The city burned. The towers cracked and fell into the sea. The bridges broke. The fires rose high. And still no one screamed. No human flag went up. No defense missile flew. Drev stood at the side of the bridge and felt cold. Warlord, I would like to recommend we pull back and call the throne for support. Ostran turned to him with anger. Pull back from a Tier 4 mud world. From a planet that does not behave like any planet I have ever attacked, sir, Drev said. Please. Ostran turned away. Send the ground troops down. Find anyone, drag them up here. The dropships went down. Meanwhile, far across the stars, on the green capital of the Galactic throne, something else was beginning. In a small private study on the upper levels of the council tower, the old human counselor Brayman sat with a cup of warm water and read a book. He looked the way a grandfather looks on the day of a long-planned family wedding. Calm, tired, a little bit happy. The door opened. Ambassador Tavik stepped in. Tavik was a tall, four-armed scholar from the Kithran people, a minor allied species. His eyes were wide. Counselor Brayman, I have spent the last 6 hours in the Tribute Records Hall. Brayman looked up gently, and the metals you sent us for 3 centuries, I had them tested, properly. Not by the lazy Draven clerks, by my own people. And, Brayman said again. Tavik sat down without being asked. They are fake, he whispered. Not all. The first 100 years were real. The next 100 were partly real. The last 100 were mostly fake. Cheap rocks coated in a thin layer of real metal. Yes, Brayman said. The biological samples were dead matter or teaching tools. Little maps of human body parts. As if you wanted us to learn the surface of human biology, but never see how a real human truly works. Yes, Brayman said. And the laborers, Tavik said, his voice broke. The conscripts, they were not slaves, they were watching us, learning our ships, our ports, our codes for 300 years. They came back home every 10 cycles. They came back and they told you everything. Yes, Brayman said softly. Tavik put his 4 hands over his face. What have you been building, out there in the dark all this time? Back above Earth, the dropships were landing. The Draven soldiers stepped out with rifles raised. They were ready for screams or rocks or arrows. They got none. They walked into a small seaside town. The streets were empty. Doors were open. A kettle was still warm on a kitchen table. A child's drawing lay on the floor. The lights were on inside the houses, gentle and yellow. It was as if every human had stood up and walked out exactly 1 hour before the fleet arrived. A sergeant picked up the child's drawing. It was a picture of a smiling stick-figure family. On the back, in careful adult handwriting, was a single line in the Draven language. Sorry about the mess. Please be kind to the cat. The sergeant stared at it for a long time. On the Iron Mountain, the communications officer suddenly went very pale. Warlord, sir, we have a signal. It is faint. From where? Ostrin said. From the throne capital, sir, 40,000 light-years away. Yes, sir, something has just decloaked directly above our homeworld. Ostran felt, for the first time in his long life, the cold finger of true fear touched the back of his neck. Open a line to the capital, Ostran said quietly. Now. The line opened, but the only voice that came back was not Draven. It was a calm human voice, speaking the throne's high language without a single mistake. Warlord, please hold position. We will be with you shortly. It started with a shadow on the sun. A small child on the capital world was flying a paper kite on a grassy hill outside the city. She looked up because the wind had suddenly stopped and she saw something strange. The afternoon sun, big and golden, had a dark shape passing slowly in front of it. The shape did not move like a cloud. It was too sharp. It had hard, clean edges. It was a ship, a very, very long ship. The child pointed up. Mama, she said, there is a knife in the sky. Her mother looked up. Then her mother dropped the basket she was carrying. Then her mother grabbed the child and ran. All over the capital, people were looking up. They were stopping their cars. They were leaving their shops. They were pointing at the same dark shape that was now over the high palace. It had appeared from nothing. 1 second the sky was empty. The next second the ship was there, silent, still, very real. The planetary defense grid woke up in a panic. 12,000 weapon platforms, the most powerful air defense in the known galaxy, turned their long guns up at the sky. Targeting locks went green. Missile tubes opened. Heavy beam cannons hummed with hot power. Every gun pointed at the long dark ship. The ship did nothing. It did not raise shields. It did not turn its own guns. It did not even change speed. It simply hovered there, watching like a hawk that had no fear of the rabbits below. Inside the great council tower, High Regent Veles was in the middle of signing a tax order. The door of his office crashed open. His chief of staff, a small, careful man named Pelin, ran in without permission. Regent Pelin gasped, "Something is over us." "Something," Veles said. "A ship, sir. We do not know what kind. It came from nowhere. The grid is locked on. They are asking for orders." Veles stood up very slowly. "From where did it come?" "Sir, we do not know." "What is its size?" It is 2 kilometers long. Veles went very still. A Draven warship was usually 1 kilometer long. This thing was twice that, and it had simply appeared above his palace like a ghost. He walked to the window. He looked up. He saw the dark shape against the bright sky. He felt a small, cold thing in his chest. He had not felt that thing since he was a boy. In the corner of the room, sitting in a soft chair, was Counselor Brayman. He had been there all morning. He had not moved. Brayman smiled for the first time in 40 years. "You should not order the grid to fire, High Regent," Brayman said softly. "And why not?" Veles whispered. "Because they will fire back," Brayman said, "and we have built nothing that can stand against them." Veles turned slowly. "What is that ship, Brayman?" "It is called the Silent Verdict," Brayman said. "It is not the only one. It is only the first one you can see." On the bridge of the Silent Verdict, Captain Aaron Hale stood in front of the great window. Below him, the capital city of the Galactic throne shone in the afternoon light. He could see the floating gardens. He could see the towers of the council. He could see the small palace where High Regent Veles was, right now, looking up at him. Lieutenant Rhea stood at his shoulder. "Sir," she said, "the home fleet is launching 80 ships. They will be in range in 4 minutes. How many planetary guns are aimed at us?" "All of them, sir, 12,000. "Are they preparing to fire?" "Yes, sir." Hale nodded once. "Open a channel," he said. "Every band, every language they use." "Open, sir." Hale did not raise his voice. He did not speak fast. He simply spoke, and the sound of his voice went out across the entire capital, into every home, every shop, every council chair, every ship in orbit. "This is Captain Aaron Hale of the Earth vessel Silent Verdict. We are the species you classified as Tier 4. We have come to discuss the tribute. You may answer with weapons. You will only do so once." The signal closed. A great silence fell on the capital. In the high command bunker, the Draven generals were screaming at each other. Some wanted to fire. Some wanted to wait. Some wanted to call every fleet in the galaxy home immediately. One old general who had fought in 3 wars simply sat down on the floor and put his head in his hands. In the council tower, Veles stood at the window. His chief of staff, Pelin, was sweating. "Regent," Pelin said, "the grid is asking, sir. They need an answer." Veles did not look away from the dark ship. "Brayman," he said, "if I do not fire, what happens?" "You sit down with him," Brayman said, "and you listen for the first time in 300 years. "And if I fire?" Brayman did not answer. Veles closed his eyes. A voice came over the wall speaker. It was the commander of the home fleet, a proud admiral named Vuric. "Regent, the intruder is 1 ship. We are 80. I request permission to engage. We will not fail you." Veles opened his mouth. He thought of his father. He thought of his throne. He thought of the 900 years of empire behind him. He thought of every minor species that was watching this moment on 1,000 worlds. He thought of how he would look if he was the first High Regent to bow to a Tier 4. He made his choice. "Admiral Vuric," he said, "you have permission to engage." In the office, Brayman closed his book and put it gently on the table. Outside, the home fleet opened fire. 1,000,000 weapons traveled through space, and then they stopped. That was the moment the galaxy changed. 80 Draven warships of the home fleet fired everything they had at the long dark ship. Heavy plasma beams, missile swarms, antimatter slugs the size of small houses, every gun, every tube at once. The space between the home fleet and the Silent Verdict turned bright white with energy. The shots flew, they covered the distance, they reached the human ship. And then they stopped. Not deflected, not absorbed, not shielded. The plasma beams froze in midair, glowing softly like long red ribbons hanging in space. The missiles stopped turning. They simply hung there, still pointed at the target but no longer moving. The slugs slowed and held still, like flies caught in slow honey. Every screen in every Draven ship showed the same impossible image. Their weapons, hanging in space, unable to finish their flight. On the bridge of the lead Draven ship, Admiral Vurik stared at his own screen. He whispered a single word in his own language. It meant, how? Across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, every Throne-allied species was watching the live feed. The bars were full. The schools were silent. Every screen showed the same picture. A small Tier 4 species had done a thing the Draven could not do, had never seen, had not even thought possible. Inside the silent verdict, Captain Aaron Hale stood at the window. He had not given a single command since the order to open the broadcast. The ship's defensive systems had done this on their own, by old design. Lieutenant Rhea watched the screen with a small, dry smile. 300 years of science. Sir, she said, and they still didn't believe it could work. Hale gave a small nod. Then he spoke into the open channel again. His voice was calm. He spoke to the entire galaxy now, not only the throne. Citizens of the throne, we will not destroy these ships. We will not destroy your capital. We have come to be heard. Please listen. A small pause. You took our metals for 3 centuries. You did not check them. The last 100 years of tribute were fake. The biological samples were teaching tools. The laborers you took from us were not slaves. They were our eyes. They walked through your ports. They studied your engines. They counted your guns. They came home every 10 years and told us everything. The galaxy held its breath. You called us Tier 4. We let you. We needed the time. We have had a fleet for 140 years. You did not see it because we did not want you to see it. Hale paused. We never wanted to come like this. We tried to be quiet. We paid your tax for 300 years even though we did not have to. We did not want the throne. We wanted only to be left alone. You did not leave us alone, so now we are here. He nodded once to Rhea. Release their weapons, send them home. Rhea pressed a small button. In space, the frozen weapons came back to life, but they did not finish their flight toward the silent verdict. They turned, slowly, in midair, and pointed back the way they had come. Then they fired again, with the same speed they had been moving before. They flew back to the Draven ships and hit each ship exactly where its main engine sat. 11 seconds. That was how long it took. 80 Draven warships went dark. Their engines stopped. Their guns stopped. Their lights stopped. Not one of them was destroyed. Not one crew member was killed. They simply floated helpless like leaves on a still pond. Admiral Vurik sat in his dark bridge and could not speak. Then a second human ship decloaked next to the silent verdict. Then a third. Then 30. Then 100. Then 300. 400 ships in all coming out of nothing in clean, slow rows, filling the orbit around the capital like a quiet forest growing in fast motion. None of them fired. None of them needed to. On the surface, on the streets, the capital citizens looked up and saw a sky that was no longer their own. In the council tower, High Regent Veli stood at the window. He did not move. His chief of staff, Pelin, was crying very quietly behind him. Far away above Earth, the same thing was happening to Warlord Ostran. 800 human ships had decloaked around his 200 warships in 3 quiet seconds. His drives suddenly did not work. His guns suddenly did not aim. His communications were politely cut, except for one channel that was held open from the ground. A voice came up that channel. It was a woman's voice, calm, warm. Warlord Ostran, this is a classroom in a small town in Earth's western region. My name is Teacher Ayla. I have my students with me. They are 6 years old. They are watching your ships through the windows. They are a little afraid. Ostran's mouth opened. No sound came out. Please do not make us turn the lights off in your ships too, the teacher said gently. The children are watching. Please be kind. Ostran lowered himself into his command chair. He pulled his helmet off slowly and set it on the floor. He did not give a single order for a very long time. In the council tower on the capital, Veli sat down too. His old legs simply gave out. He looked at Brayman. "What do they want?" he whispered. "To talk," Brayman said. "Only that. Only that." For the first time, Veles understood that the most terrible thing in the galaxy was a kind enemy. A small shuttle, no bigger than a city bus, came down through the clouds of the capital and landed in the wide stone square in front of the council tower. The square was full. 30,000 citizens had come to see. The home fleet still floated dead in orbit above them. 400 human warships still sat in the sky like quiet judges. The crowd was not shouting. The crowd was barely breathing. The shuttle door opened. One man stepped out. He was alone. He wore a simple gray uniform with no medals, no helmet, no weapon belt. He had short brown hair and tired, calm eyes. The crowd had expected armor. They had expected a wall of guards. They had expected at least a war cape. Instead, they got a man who looked like a teacher coming to talk to a school principal. Captain Aaron Hale walked across the wide stone square without hurry. He did not look up at the dark ships. He did not look at the crowd. He looked only at the great black doors of the council tower ahead. A child ran out from behind a market stall. The child was Draven, maybe 7 years old, with golden skin and big eyes. The child stood in Hale's path. The crowd gasped. A mother screamed. Hale stopped. He knelt down to the child's level. He spoke in soft Draven, the way a man speaks to a small animal he does not want to frighten. "Hello, little one, are you lost?" The child held out a small white flower. "I picked this for you, from my window." Hale took the flower very gently. He tucked it into the front pocket of his gray uniform. "Thank you," he said. "It is the kindest thing anyone has given me in a long time." The mother ran out and grabbed the child away. Hale stood up and kept walking. That small moment, the flower, the kneeling man, the calm Draven words, was broadcast on every screen in every world that was watching. It would be remembered by the entire galaxy for 1,000 years. Inside the council tower, the great chamber was full. Every council member was there, every clan head, every senior general. The dome was full of every important person on the planet. They sat in their tall black chairs and they waited. The great doors opened. Captain Hale walked in, alone, quiet, the same flower in his pocket. He walked down the long path to the center of the round chamber. He did not bow. He did not kneel. He simply stood in the middle of the room and waited. High Regent Veles sat on the high seat. He did not speak first. He was not sure he could. Old Counselor Brayman rose from his small chair on the side. "High Regent," Brayman said gently, "may I speak?" "Speak," Veles whispered. Brayman turned to face the council. He looked at every face. Then he spoke. "For 300 years, my people understood one thing. We could not win a war we had announced, so we chose silence. We paid your tax. We sent your laborers. We smiled at your tax masters, and we built. We built in the empty places between stars. We built in the deep ice moons. We built under the oceans of our own world in caves you never even scanned for. And we waited." He paused. "I have lived in this tower for 40 years. I have eaten at your tables. I am sorry for the fear you feel now, but I am not sorry for what we built." He sat down. Hale spoke for the first time inside the chamber. His voice was soft. "High Regent," he said, "I have 4 requests. They are not demands, they are requests. You may refuse any of them and I will leave this room and my fleet will leave your sky." Veles looked up slowly. "Speak them." "First," Hale said, "the tier classification system, all 4 tiers must be ended. Forever. For every species, not only mine. No species in this galaxy should ever again be called Tier 4 because it lives on a small, wet world." A long silence. "Second, the tribute system must end. Today, every species that is paying tribute should keep its metals, its labor, and its children." Some council members stood up in shock. Others sat very still. "Third," Hale said, The 80 ships we have disabled will be returned to you. Whole, we will repair them ourselves. We are good at engines. It will take us 6 days. That stopped many mouths from speaking. And fourth, Hale said, humanity asks for a permanent seat on this council, not as a subject species, as an equal voice. 1 seat, no more, no special powers, only a chair, a vote, and a microphone. The chamber was so quiet you could hear the wind outside. Ambassador Tavik stood up first. He was crying. The Kithran people, he said, will support every one of these requests. A second ambassador stood, then a third, then a fourth. One by one, 12 minor species ambassadors stood up in support. A voice came through the wall speakers. It was Warlord Ostran, broadcast from his dead flagship above Earth. His voice was rough. Regent, I request the right to die in combat before I sign this paper. Hale turned toward the speaker. He spoke gently. Warlord, we did not come here to kill you. We came here to be heard. You will go home, so will your crews. That is the difference between us. Veles closed his eyes for a long moment. Then he asked the question the whole galaxy was waiting for. Captain, why did you not just destroy us? You could have. Hale looked up at him. The white flower was still in his pocket. Because we are not you, he said. Veles signed the accord. 6 months passed. In a small market on a small world that no one used to care about, an old fruit seller was setting up his cart for the morning. He was a Kithran, 4-armed and slow, humming a soft song. He was humming because, for the first time in 70 years, his planet was not on the tribute list. The collectors were not coming this month. The collectors were not coming any month. That was what humanity had given the galaxy. Not new gods, not new kings, only quiet mornings. In the great council chamber far away, the tier classification system was now officially gone. 12 former subject worlds held their first free councils. The old tribute ledgers had been publicly burned in the central square of the capital. The fire had lasted 3 days because there had been so many pages. High Regent Veles was still High Regent. That had surprised many people. Captain Hale had refused to remove him. He signed the accord, Hale had said. He listened. That is the only thing we ever asked of him. Veles kept his throne, but he was now one voice on a council of equals. He had grown thinner. He spoke less. He listened more. In his private rooms at night, Veles was writing a book. It was a memoir. It would not be released in his lifetime. He had written only the first line so far, and he had been working on that line for 3 months. It read, "We did not lose to a weapon. We lost to a species that decided we were not worth becoming a monster over." Warlord Ostran had gone home. He had been reduced in rank. He was no longer a warlord. He was now only a captain of a small home patrol ship. He did not complain. He had a small house in the hills with his wife and his old service dog. Sometimes at night, he would walk to the local soldier memorial. The names of his fallen friends were carved on the stones. He would stand there for a long time. He would think of the dark human ship and the calm voice of the teacher and the children at the windows. One day he brought a small white flower to the memorial. He did not know why. He left it on the stone and walked away. He did not look back. Ambassador Tavik had become the first non-Draven interspecies liaison. His first official act in his new chair was to formally apologize to humanity on behalf of the Kithran people. He cried during the speech. No one minded. Half the room cried with him. The silent verdict was not at the capital. It was not at Earth. It was not at any famous place. It was in a small, dim sector of space called the Outer Curve, where 3 small species lived on 3 small worlds. These species had been bullied for many years by a clan of space pirates that the throne had never bothered to police. Now the pirates were leaving. They were leaving very fast, because the silent verdict had quietly arrived and parked above one of the small worlds, and the pirates had taken one look at it on their scanners and packed up their ships in a single night. Captain Hale had not fired a single shot. He had simply been there. On the bridge of the silent verdict, Lieutenant Rhea stepped up beside Hale and handed him a cup of something warm. Hale took it. "Sir," she said, "Earth Command sent a message. They want to know when we will come home for the parade." Hale almost smiled. "What parade?" "The one they have been planning for 6 months, sir. The one you keep refusing to attend." "There will not be a parade," Hale said softly. "We are not parade people." Rhea leaned on the rail next to him. "Do you think the galaxy has truly learned, sir?" Hale watched the stars through the great window. He thought about the question carefully. "I do not know," he said. "Some have, most are still afraid, a few are still angry, a few will try one day to test us again. They will fail, but they will try." Rhea nodded. "And then?" "And then we will still be here," Hale said, quietly, "the way we always were." He took a slow sip from his cup. "That is what humans are, Lieutenant. Not the loudest, not the proudest, not the cruelest. We are the ones who do not go away." Far away on the capital world in a small classroom, a Draven schoolchild raised her hand. She was the same child who had once flown a paper kite on a grassy hill, the same child who had said the words, "There is a knife in the sky." The teacher looked at her. "Yes." "Teacher," the child said, "why did the humans not burn our city when they could have?" The teacher was quiet for a long time. She had been waiting for this question. She had known it would come, one day from one child or another. Finally, she said, "Because they had already won, and burning a city is what someone does when they have not." The class was quiet. The child nodded slowly. She understood. In space, the silent verdict dimmed its running lights. It did not hide this time. It was not hiding. It was simply going back to work, the way a good doctor goes back to a quiet ward after a long surgery. The galaxy had spent 900 years learning to fear strong species. It would spend the next 900 learning to fear a kind one. Because humanity had never wanted the throne. They had only ever wanted to be left alone. And the galaxy, at long last, finally understood that this was the most terrifying thing a species could ever want.